Hi everybody, it's Scott from Wood Lake, and today I've got some wiggly worms to show you for our creature feature today. Now worms, everybody takes them for granted, right? They're in the garden, they're out in the forest, but worms play a really super important role in the ecosystem. They're one of the decomposers that eat all the dead leaves and grass that lays on the ground and turns it back into soil. So let's take a look at some of our friends. I've got some earthworms. I'm going to rinse them off here. These are the typical earthworms that you see in your garden or your yard at home. You can see that right there. Look at that guy go. They are kind of slimy. They like to be wet and moist. And you'll notice there's the dark red end. That's the head end. And then the rest of the body. Talk about that in a minute. There are many different kinds of worms, actually 9 different species of worms in Minnesota. These are your typical earthworms. Then, of course, you've all heard of night crawlers. At night, these larger worms come out. Look at that guy there. They are the biggest worm in Minnesota. And then we've got red wigglers. These are the little red worms that we find in farm fields. And they're smaller and they're kind of red and they wiggle a lot and they're hard to get clean here. There we go. These are a couple of red wigglers. Oh, my nightcrawler's leaving the sheet. He's so big. And my earthworms. So here we have red wigglers, a little bit smaller worm, earthworms, and the night crawler. So worms are out there all the time, and if you're ever in a forest in the evening and you listen really carefully and you hear ch, 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 and it sounds like somebody crunching leaves, look really closely with a headlamp or a light, and you might see leaves actually being sucked into the ground by the worms. They stick their heads up, bite onto the leaf, and actually pull it into the ground with them. So they can do that because even though they feel very smooth, worms have these little tiny hairs on the sides of their bodies. And those hairs help them to grip the ground. That's why if you've ever seen a robin catch a worm, it has to pull really hard. And sometimes the worm breaks in half because those little hairs help it hold on to the ground as it tunnels through the ground and eats all the dead leaf matter. So you can see these worms, and I'm going to use the biggest worm here for a moment. So on a worm, the head end is the dark red end, the bigger end there. And then you can see there's a little bit of a raised spot right behind the head. It's not so easy to see on this guy, but it's right about here. And that's called the clitellum. That's the sexual organ of the worm. And then this is the tail. Oh, and you can see it just pooped on me. There's a casting right there. And at night, they stick their little butts up and poop out fresh soil. The soil in your yard, the top inch of soil, is made every 7 years by worms. So you can see here these little bumpy pieces of soil that I've collected. You can see right there, these little bumpy nurdles of soil, those are worm castings. So at night, the worms tunnel underneath after eating all day. They stick their little butts up above ground and they poop out little castings of soil, just like this, which of course helps all the plants to grow. So there are lots of worms out there. How do there get to be so many worms? Well, a worm is both a male and a female. What? That is crazy, isn't it? It's called a hermaphrodite. And a hermaphrodite is an animal that's both male and female in the same animal. They can't mate with themselves, so they have to find another worm. And if you see 2 worms with their heads together, like this, they're rubbing their clitellum together, and the male parts of one mate with the female of the other, and vice versa. So both get mated, then both worms go off in their separate places, and they actually lay cocoons. And a cocoon, you can see how small these are. These are red worm cocoons. There's my finger for comparison. Each cocoon has 6 to 8 eggs in it. And a single worm will lay hundreds of these cocoons in a year. So that means each worm has over 600 or 800 babies in a year. So these are little cocoons that contain the worm eggs, and those will hatch out when they lay in the soil and get warm. So that's how they have babies. And worms are amazing. There's many, many, many worms in the soil around here, but guess what? They're all from Europe. All 9 species in Minnesota have come from Europe. We had an ice age here 15,000 years ago, and there were no worms. So when all the immigrant farmers moved to this country, they brought soil and plants, and they brought over many different animal species, including worms. So remember that when you go fishing up north. Down here in the southern part of the state, worms are naturalized. They're in pretty much everybody's garden and every soil. They don't exist, however, in the northern forest in northern Minnesota. So please, when you're fishing with worms, because they make excellent bait and many, many fish species love to eat them, when you're done fishing, don't release your worms at the edge of the lake up north. Bring your worms home, save them for another day, or put them in your garden and let them do their work there. If you let them go up north, they've been eating all the beneficial fungus that live in the soil, and it's changing the entire ecosystem of our northern forests. They're eating the mycorrhizal fungus that actually help the plants to grow up there, and we're seeing a total change in the forests in that area where the worms have been introduced. So please bring your worms back home with you. Keep them in the southern part of the state and enjoy those worms, because they do make soil, and they enrich the soil in our gardens and in our forests of the southern part of the state, and they're fun to find and use for bait. And many, many other animals, robins, birds, toads, frogs, many animals eat worms. Now, do you want to see which worms are the fastest? Let's have a worm race. Now for some fun, we're going to have worm races starring Nikki the Nightcrawler,
Aaron the Earthworm,
Rowan the Redworm, small but mighty.
Everybody put your worms by the center of the circle and go!
Come on, Aaron! Go, 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 go!
Come on, Rowan!
Come on, Nikki!
Yes,
Nikki,
Aaron!
Nikki, go!
You're going the right direction!
Go, Rowan! Go, Rowan!
Come
Go,
on!
Rowan!
Come on, Aaron!
What is this? Don't stand up.
why
You
is
don't
everyone
have
just
legs.
staying in the middle?
Go!
Aaron's going the right way.
Rowan's trying to go
Aaron!
Wait, he's upside down. He's on his back.
There you go,
Go,
Rowan!
Aaron!
Oh,
Yes!
on, Nikki.
You made it past the first circle!
Nikki.
Slow and steady
Roll over.
wins the race.
Come on, Aaron! You've got it! Come on, Aaron! Keep
Come
going!
on, Nikki.
Go, go, go. Go. Oh, yeah,
Oh.
mine's
Nikki.
passing you. Rowan's
Yeah, that's
passing
right.
you. Oh, don't push him out of the way.
way.
Oh, take him
Keep
in.
going.
Come
That's
on,
it.
Aaron. Yes,
Keep
go,
going,
go,
Nikki.
I like
Keep
Rowan's
going.
strategy. Rowan is
Nikki.
going for a piggyback ride. Go, go, go.
Meanwhile, mine is going in the right direction
This
away
is
from
getting
this
close.
little cluster
Oh,
that's
hey, yours
happening.
is blocking mine. Rowan, come on,
Come on, Aaron, you're almost there.
Crawl
Keep
over,
going, keep
crawl
going. You're so close.
And
Oh! The earthworm wins.
You can do this at home.
Hi, I'm Scott, the naturalist at Ward Lake Nature Center, and today we're having the story Bob and Otto by Robert Bruhl. Once there were two very good friends, Bob and Otto. It was spring and everything was lively and exciting. These two very good friends spent each day digging in the ground, playing in the grass, and eating the leaves that fell from the old tree. But one day, Bob looked up. I need to climb this tree, he said. I want to see how the world looks from up there. Up there, said Otto, but it's so nice down here. When it's hot and dry, you can dig deep into the ground where it's cool and damp. And when it rains, you can come back up. Life is good just where we are. Why would you want to go up there? Because it's important, said Bob, and up the tree he went. It's important down here too, said Otto, and down into the ground he went. Bob climbed and he climbed and he climbed and he climbed until he was very high in the tree. Otto dug and he dug and he dug and he dug until he was very deep under the tree. These fresh green leaves are very tasty up here, thought Bob. So he ate and he ate and he ate until he felt quite sleepy. These old rotted leaves are very tasty down here, thought Otto. But still he dug and he dug and he dug until he felt quite sleepy. So Bob slept and he slept and he slept and he slept for many, many days and nights. But Otto still dug and he dug and he dug and he dug and dug some more. When Bob woke up, he was so full of joy, he felt like flying. So he flew over, under, and around every branch of the tree. Otto loved digging so much, he dug over, under, and around every root of the tree. Soon Bob realized how much he missed his old friend and all of the fun they used to have together. So down went Bob to find Otto. Soon Otto realized how much he missed his old friend and all of the fun they used to have together. So up went Otto to find Bob. Hello, Bob. Hello, Otto. I like your wings. Thanks. So you can fly. Sure can. Otto, why are you sad? Because, said Otto, if I had climbed up the old tree with you when you asked me to, then maybe I would have grown big, beautiful wings like yours, and maybe I could fly. But I didn't. All I did was dig and dig and dig and dig and dig some more. But I'm still just a big, fat worm. No, you're not, said Bob. While you were digging, all I did was eat. While you were digging, all I did was sleep. While you were digging, all I did was fly around. But while you were digging, you loosened the soil so the roots could drink water, so the tree could grow tall, so the leaves would be green, so I could eat the leaves and grow wings. I owe it all to you, Otto, said Bob. You're not just a worm, you're my best friend. And friends are important.